morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Monday morning. Where there's so many reasons for him to come out this morning. It's freaking hot as hell. There's nothing going on in the sports world that's of interest and all that kind of stuff. But the Prince is here from his newly redesigned. Is this the final destination, if you will? Final standings here?
Yeah, for the most part, there's going to be my green screen is over there, but I'm currently using the laptop, and I'm not sure how it was going to work with the green screen, so I didn't do it for right now. So you won't see all of this behind me, even though it is all just Liverpool related stuff. Anyway, this is the final destination. As soon as I can get some internet guy to come out here and help me try and connect the PC to the internet in the best way possible, because the Wi-Fi connection is so bad.
Oh, okay.
I tried one of those signal boosters, and that did nothing. I read online that, hey, this is a waste of money, don't do it. And I was like, this person doesn't know what they're doing. So I plugged it in, I set it all up. I took about 3 minutes, and I was like, yeah, that's just as bad as it was before. So yeah, just a little bit of still some needing to do, but for the most part, this is where everyone's going to see me from now.
Nice. Final destination. Butlers on hold in the background. I'm sure they're just like waiting with like trays in their hands and stuff. Right there, yeah, holding the green screen. If you, but you said there, the green screen is there. It's like the butler is holding it. Sir Z is here. Alan, good morning, gentlemen. This is new. See, there you go. There's some news. Neoni just signed a long-term contract, which I'm happy to hear because there were a lot of rumors of him maybe like had his chance and didn't make most of it, kind of a thing, which I thought was extremely unfair. I really like the kid's game. I just think the only issue with Neoni when he did come up was you can kind of tell he's not physically ready yet, but he was like 17 or something, wasn't he, when he was coming up and playing with the big boys?
Yeah, he was just this really small frame. And, it's in a sport like this, you can get away with it depending on where you're playing on the field. But if you want to play a more physical game, and especially in the midfield, you're going to need a little bit more to the frame to be able to get by. Because, frames like that, if you're out on the wing, flying up and down the field, you can get away with it. But if you're going to be battling it out in the middle of the field, you need a little bit more on there because you're going to get bullied too much. Unless you're just a very creative kind of midfielder that can get around.
One thing I liked about Neoni is knowing that, like, especially when he came and played with the big boys, he was 16 when he first came up. And I remember like when he consistently got time, I remember talking about him then. What I really like seeing about him is he knows where the ball is going to go before it even comes to him. So there's like, he rarely gets caught on the ball. So obviously, like any player, he's gonna have misplaced passes and stuff like that. But he kind of is watching and like reading the game at all times. So I thought I really like his game. Really, I think he's like a really, really fun kid to watch. So I'm hoping, yeah, as he grows into his body and stuff like that and gets stronger, I think he will get more minutes on this team. I would hope so, at least, because I think he's a big talent. So yeah, it's good to hear that he signed the contract. Because not that it means. I think with the youth, it means a lot more, though. Doesn't it, Matush? Like, when the other guys sign, we're like, it doesn't mean anything. Maybe we're just trying to get money for them. But I think with the youth players, when you sign them to, like, an extension like that, usually it means, yeah, they're going to probably make it. Or at least we feel like they're going to make it still.
Yeah, it's an intentional thing that makes you understand that the manager and the club believe in that player. And even though they're only 16, 17, 18 years old, to have that belief in that kind of player at that age is huge. And it's a morale boost for the player. It could be a morale boost for the team as well. So I think, like you're saying, it's all good signs when you have an extension, because it's unfortunately it's easy to not extend younger players, let them walk away and have them go wherever they need to go, because you don't invest too much into them unless you paid for them when they were 16, 17, couple million, wherever it was. You genuinely don't pay that much. So showing that intent is huge.
I know I read just the other day they signed another kid who's like 16. I can't remember the kid's name now. But usually when they go out of their way to sign a kid, there's like hope over there. Turns 18 today. I don't think that's a coincidence either. Probably you're 18, sign right here. Now you're an adult, kind of a deal. It's probably what happened there. But yeah, happy birthday to him. So he did turn 18. Yeah, I expect him to be good. Hopefully with Liverpool. Look, we can be a really good player and not be a Liverpool player, right? I mean, it takes a lot to be able to play and start for this team, obviously. So, but I do feel like watching him, I think he will be a good player, and hopefully he'll be with us. He'll be that good. Hopefully, Mr. Barrett is in the house. Good morning, sir. What's going on? If you're watching us right now, hit that thumbs up. Don't forget, because I always forget to ask. So yeah, hit the thumbs up and stuff, so that's some poor soul who's just going onto YouTube right now will be like, "Who are these bozos?" and then tune in. Speaking of, let me ask.
Speaking of bozos, give me a question.
What do you think? I mean, obviously, look, it's weird because it feels a little anticlimactic, maybe because we knew in some ways that these three were in the works and could happen, right? And now Frimpong is here. Kerkez and obviously Wirtz. But it was almost like, we saw that photo, like that image in social media over and over and over again in different formats, three of them. So, but it's never official until it's official. It's all done now. They are ours. No need to be worried about anything, mishap, a figure kind of a situation and stuff. What's next? Do you think it will be fairly quiet for a little bit here? Or do they go full blast? Because they've shown that, they want to get the business done early.
It's a great question, and that's why I have that right here.
And what is the answer? I can write it too. I wrote it in the description, but
so no, I did expect maybe another. I guess we also can't forget the Hungarian keeper, Armin Pesci, right? I think it's a Pexi or Pexi, however you pronounce that.
I'll go with Pesci.
With Pesci, I like a Pesci, right? Oh no, that's not good. That's not good. I'm not an odd. I'm not an odd. This was a bad idea. I'm gonna go away. No, we. And then Mamardashvili is coming in over this summer too. So in a way, it's like a new signing, right? So 5 players that are coming over, 2 keepers. I think Serzi is on. I think that is correct in terms of position. I don't know if Gahey is the answer for the next transfer. He might be the answer overall, but I think there's also going to be one more defender that they buy.
Oh, okay.
So I think it might be a more quieter signing for a defender, and then also Gahey. But if Gahey comes next, I do still think there will be another defender that comes after Gahey as well. So I would have expected something else by now. Maybe that's just being gluttonous because we've just been hit by so much. Because we didn't have much last year. And it was at the very end. It was just like, hey, here's a little Italian dessert for you. And like, hey, cool, nice. And then the whole year went by, and like it didn't taste that good. Hopefully he sticks around. Maybe we don't know what's going to happen there. So I would expect a few more outgoings next before we see an incoming. But I do think defender is next on the board.
3 keepers, says Jamie. Yeah, just keep bringing them. Actually, yeah, we did sign. What's the dude's name? Apart from the Pesky, we signed the I can't remember the name now, which was more about numbers than anything else. But Kevin says he has the insider news. Well, what is it? You can't just be like, I have the insider news and not give the news. What is it? Well, what's going on, Tori? I don't know. Like Gahey being the next move, when we were talking about next Monday, I thought it would have happened by tonight's podcast. There goes that. So that doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think it's a matter of, look, there's no rush. So, Crystal Palace can play hard to get. And if they're going to sell him, they might be like, anybody else wants him, by the way? Because look, he's available kind of a deal. So they might be playing it where they're trying to get as much as possible. We're obviously willing to pay as little as possible. Freddie Woodman, that's the guy I was thinking of. Thank you. That's more for the numbers, I think. Carson kind of a signing for like the homegrown and stuff like that. But you mentioned something about Gabe being the answer and stuff, and I know that's what you meant. You corrected it. But I will ask you, do you think he's the answer to replace Kwanzaa? or a good answer? Let me ask you that.
Yeah, why not? I think we. Why not?
Sure, I'll have some. Like,
I think again, I think we're always going to come back to the what is the cost analysis, right? And when you look at someone like Gahey, what he brings at his age, and as much of a leader as he has been in the Palace locker room, as much as he is a leader in the international locker room, that's stuff that you can't necessarily put a price on. I know that you could have Kwanzaa develop that leadership potentially. But I feel like it's something that's innate in players. They either have it or they don't. It's hard to build it. And if they're showing it at 23, 24, 25 years old, it's a really good trait to have. And I think given the amount of money that could go for him, I'm worried that it's a little high. It's much better than it would have been last year or 2 years ago when it was up to 70, 80, I think it was. So at least in that sense, it does feel much better. But, it's like Kazi likes to say, it's not our money. The problem is, though, that money that gets spent can't get spent elsewhere. So you can't overspend because you're not in a position, nor do you run the club in a way that allows you to just buy whatever you want. If you make a mistake, you just buy another player, right? It's not really how this model works. So I think
over here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think Gahey could be fantastic. I think he possesses all the qualities to be able to be a good center back at this club. It's just a matter of how much and how willing are we to meet that amount that Palace want.
Yeah, and I think this is a big deal. Like Kevin is saying the same thing, the 20% that Chelsea is going to get. So they have to kind of bear that in mind. And look, I mean, we were talking about this, I think, last Monday night. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Palace can go and say everybody gets kind of like the best of all worlds, right? Like, Palace can say, hey, we held off on 70. We're going to get less now, 40, 45, 50, whatever it might be. But shit, we won an FA Cup by being able to keep him and keeping a good team and stuff like that. They're still going to get money. We're going to get a good player to replace Kwanzaa with only 10, 15 or whatever extra. You're getting a proven Premier League defender, leadership qualities in the national team, homegrown numbers, like everything basically that comes with him. So I think, and obviously the player is going to Liverpool now. So I think it's a good deal for literally everybody who is involved. And I think it's basically, 40 to 45 gets it done. It's just like, is it 40 or is it 45 or is it 50? I last read that, Palace would want 50, but, I want a lot too, but there's not more. 15 million guaranteed game time, and Crystal Palace wants dope.
Fine, take him. Honestly, we overhype some of our players way too much anyway. Go ahead and take him.
Who guaranteed game time for who? For Gay? He's not gonna get that. I mean, I don't think anybody gets like the guaranteed game time. It's not a loan. Where Palace got dictated. So I'm assuming this is from the Gay camp saying like, are we going to start because of the World Cup and stuff like that? And yeah, I mean, here's the thing. He'll go for free next season. And I think Surzi was mentioning it earlier. They're already getting his replacements in. They are from Sporting, I think, right? So I don't know where that one is at. And I don't know if that's getting a player like that. I'll ask you, like, if they get his replacement, does it almost force their hand more to sell faster? Because now you have to sell. So I don't think it puts you in a good negotiating spot to sign the replacements, because then everybody knows, well, you have that guy now too. You're not going to have all of them, so you do have to sell. I would think it kind of almost hurts your bargaining position.
Unless Diamande doesn't mind having some time where he is the number 2 behind Gahey, maybe some time to bet in, maybe some time to learn from him still. If that's the kind of route that they go for, then I can understand that. But I do agree that it does really force their hand. It's sort of like, a contingency in buying a home, right? You really love this house and you want to put the offer in, but your house is also for sale. No one's put an offer in. Well, if someone just put an offer on yours, you're going to have to take the other offer, right, to be able to get that to go through. Yeah. So it is something like that. I do think they'll end up having to sell Gahey for a little bit less if they are strapped for cash that way. But I don't know if they are. That's the only thing, is I don't know if they're that strapped or they're going to need the funds to be able to fund the Diamande transfer.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, damn, they can't say the same thing and say like, I want guaranteed game time too. Damn it. So yeah, I do think it does get done though. I think it is going to get done where it's just a matter of somewhere between 40 and 50. Probably Liverpool wants to do it in add-ons and stuff like that, and I'm sure Palace wants the money. So it's just a matter of negotiating. But I do almost think that's almost a half-done deal, similar to the other ones. I think it's going to be very anticlimactic when it does happen at the end, because we've been talking about it for a long time. And it's odd because in the past, when we signed players, it was like, you heard about it today. He was here in the, doing the medical the next day, and he was suddenly signed. All the signings this season have kind of gone on for a little bit. Why do you think that is?
That's great. That's a great question. It's very un-Liverpool, right? Like you said, that a lot of signings that we had, I can think about like Jota was absolutely out of nowhere. Thiago was pretty much absolutely out of nowhere. I think Nunez, there was a little bit of smoke for a couple of days, but then it got done, right? Lucho, same thing, a little bit of smoke, a couple of days, but then it got done. And these three just dragged on and on. Well, Kirkes himself I swear, he would have had his own presser at AXA if Liverpool didn't sign him last week anyway. Like, he was just going to show up anyway and go, all right, guys, I am now a Liverpool player. I know they haven't announced it, but I'm just going to make it official. Because, like, I feel like his dad was directly sending photos to Fabrizio and be like, hey, here's your exclusive. So I feel like they've very much been the ones that have been pushing this for so long. But with Frimpong and Wirtz, I think with the Wirtz one, it was a money thing because it was the most expensive signing that we've made, and there were a lot of moving parts there. And Frimpong, I think part of it too was we had, with Xabi being the manager at Bayer and kind of having those fantasies when Klopp was leaving about, for some people, be like, oh, well, if Xabi comes over, he can bring over guys like Frimpong and Wirtz because he's played with them before or he's managed them before. And then we had that little clip where Frimpong is meeting Ryan and Cody at the Dutch national team, and he's using his Scouse accent. So like we've almost like flirted with the idea, which is why I think it's just felt like such a long time. But yeah, it's hard to say why the big change, because like technically again, like the Pesci one, the Woodman one, those were out of nowhere, technically.
True.
Not high profile.
I mean, to be honest, Woodman one could have been going on forever. I don't think we would sit down and talk about it over here either. So, but yeah, it's been odd in that sense because some of these have been dragging for a lot longer than we're used to, or coming out, I should say, more than anything else. I'm sure all these negotiations take a while. It doesn't happen overnight, but you didn't hear about them in the past until they happened, and now it feels like we've been. That three we've been talking about for our. I'm always torn when I see stuff like that, I have to admit, especially with the Milos Kerkez deal with the dad and, like sending the stuff to Fabrizio and stuff like that. Because, call me paranoid, but we just went through it with supposedly our own, right? Pulling shit, learning Spanish in 2 weeks or less. So when I see something like that, I don't know. It's the cynical old bastard in me that says, what's going to stop this asshole doing the same thing 5 years from now, forcing a move somewhere else?
Yeah, but then we get 5 years of possibly top left back play that we need right now.
I'm so goddamn optimistic. That's what I like about you. See, I'm more. Sometimes like you like it. You like seeing it, how into it they are and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I said, maybe because it's the recency bias that what happened with Trent just happened. So I can't help but think, well, they might pull this thing again over here in like 3 years or something like that. Yeah. So,
and with Kirkes too. Oh, sorry. And with Kirkes too, he is. This is his 5th club in 7 years, I think it is. Right. So he not that it's a bad thing that he's bounced from one to another, because every time he sort of took the next step up. So you can understand that it was all like it's a good sign because it was consistent progression. And he wasn't stagnant for too long. His longest stint was at Bournemouth for 2.5 years. So if anything, you would hope that maybe reaching this was the last level, the last plateau, right? Unless his last level is the Real Madrid or the Barcelona, because there still is, we can sit here and talk about how big this club is and it being the biggest club in England, and it is, but you just sometimes can't put it up against the giants of Barcelona, Real Madrid to the footballing world. I think there's just another level to that. And I'm not talking about quality as far as year to year, just the name, right? I think when you talk to people who don't follow the sport, the chances of them knowing Barcelona, Real Madrid, and not knowing Liverpool, 9 out of 10 times, right? That's just how it is.
Why do you think that is, by the way? I mean, especially, I understand that, and it's the money. Obviously, Real has been successful in Europe and stuff like that as well. It just is interesting that it is like growing up, especially in Europe, probably, and probably more than away from Europe as well, that you do. I mean, everybody's trying to make their own Classico after Classico was Classico, right? They're like, this is our Classico kind of a deal. And so everybody tries to do that, even though, and when you look at like the biggest rivalries and stuff like that, I know because Fenerbahce Galatasaray is always in that list somewhere because, vicious and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I can see that if you grew up with that and that was your like childhood dream kind of a deal. And it just feels like, though, as you kind of grow over the years and get into a good professional situation, I mean, I don't know what did the little prince want to be apart from king when you were growing up? Like, did you like a pilot, blah blah blah? Like, what was little Matush going for?
We're gonna get into it, guys. This is Monday. So my dad played professionally in Poland, so I wanted to play football professionally. But then I also wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a doctor, and then an actor. So those were, it was a little bit all over. And then I realized I couldn't do any of those fucking things. So here I am sitting in a chair talking to you. So hey,
you exceeded those desires. If you look at it that way.
You have to answer the question as well. What did little baby Timuchin want to be?
Because why is a little baby Timuchin? But
you had a lot of football in your lineage as well.
Yeah, I mean the footballer thing, I think, is any little boy in Europe is probably you start with that. That's the starting point, right? But then you kind of like as you get older, you're like, I don't know, because I'm not in the mix already, kind of a deal, and then like academically, like you go like through different things and stuff. So I was doing the pilot thing back in the day. But that was like, when you're like little, that's what I'm saying. Like little, there's like, like weird things. I mean, don't be like all shocked. You just named like 8 totally different professions that you wanted to do as a kid. At least I only had a few. So I was focused, damn it. So, but that changes overall. Like if you thought, that's why like, Kirk, as you growing up, let's say as a little kid and watching the classical blah, blah, as you grow up, you're not like, we're still not saying like, I mean, I don't know, you might be saying you could still be like you can be whatever you want to. You're still young. But I'm not going around being like, maybe I'll be a pilot. I can barely see the phone. So with this eyesight, there's nothing, you don't want to be on my plane. That's for sure. So that's what I mean. Like as you get older, especially as you get older and stuff, you would think, and you have a career, you would think that would change, but then you see what freaking Trent does, and that theory goes out the door. There you go, dude. Football pundit. There you go.
I don't, but technically, I mean, I'm not American, but the way I speak is very American. So no one wants to give me that title because unless it's NFL football, because otherwise, I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're just a Yank.
I'm just a Yank.
You know what? I'm pretty offended, by the way. So let's ask the audience, because there's a lot of international audience right now in the chat over here. I'm really getting offended being called a Yank online in these reels and stuff like that. Because, I mean, seriously, first of all, I really resent the people who are editing these shorts and removing my title over there. And you're in this thing. So if the Turkish one was there, maybe I would get away with it because they only get the face because of the format, right? Like because it's like more of a square. So this is the square right here that people get on the reel. So this Timuchin Turkish one thing here disappears. So all the comments are like, just yank this. I'm like, dude, who's listening to me and saying like, oh, that's a typical yank right there. So everyone in the audience, I want to know, when you guys just listen, have I become too Americanized? There's no way my accent is like an American accent.
You sound like
You all know what I mean? Like,
you sound born and raised from New York, baby. Look, and I'm going to take a little offense to your offense, sir. Double down on this. When editing the reels, there's only so much that I can pick from. I can't. It has to be like that, otherwise it looks funny. But I will try. Next time, I'm just going to just do your name, and it'll just be a voiceover. And then people will be like, okay, yep, no, he's fine. He's not American. He's fine.
yeah, I would rather be called the Turkish idiots. I mean, is that too much to ask from the social media people? You know, like I'd rather be
an idiot. I just don't want to be an American idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Not even an American idiot. I'm like a yank. It's just like, come on, man. Yeah, okay. So y'all been watching this FIFA Club World Cup or what? So let's talk a little bit about that as I get the feedback from my accents. I really want to know from like Mr. Barrett, like Tony, because I know Tony is in Liverpool, Kevin and stuff like that. When they hear the accents, do they say, have I changed? Because I mean, obviously, like I can actually, I'll ask you that. Can you hear somebody speaking English? I can hear speaking somebody English and I'll be like, they're from Turkey. Just because of like the accent that's built in there. Can you do that with Polish people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always. Absolutely.
Because we are actually starting to record. So we want to see some real good comedy. Is we are recording for the new channel, the EPL Across the Pond, where we're doing like Premier League content. We are doing a show with my brother called The Rival Bros. So his accent over, and then he has some like British thing because he lived in England longer than I did. So he does throw some things in there that are like more British English, if you will. But then you'll get the accent there. The funny thing is, you know, I kind of sometimes he gets stuck. I gotta find words for him. When we do the Turkish one, I get stuck, like in phrases or you know, like how do you say kind of a deal and stuff like that. So you know what? That's not a bad idea. The problem is Matush, you know, when he clips it, he's gonna clip the English. So that's gonna go.
No, I'm gonna put the translation on there and make it say something completely different. He's gonna get even more flame online.
Damn AI. Okay, let's talk about this. Supposedly, I've been told, I've been seeing highlights here and there that there's a tournament going on, FIFA Club World Cup. Klopp came out and said that it was pointless, and obviously we know how Klopp feels about excessive games and stuff like that. But I mean, in the past, we've criticized some of his criticism of, you know, and some of them were right, but some of them, like the morning games and stuff like that, I just felt like way over, and that's why we sucked every morning and stuff. We talked about that. But my question is, in this turn, what is the point of this tournament? Like, because I know in a World Cup and stuff, you get the same situation, right? Like, it doesn't get juicy, if you will, until like the elimination rounds and stuff like that. But it feels like there is absolutely like no pointers. I watch anything and everything soccer/football online. Like I consume it. Doesn't matter what it is. If I turn the TV on, if soccer is on, I'm gonna watch it. Doesn't matter what it is. I haven't even bothered to look for this during the day and stuff like that as I work. And if I'm not, I mean, there's already over 1 million seats that are empty in this tournament. I was reading on ESPN the other day. What is the point of this aside from just, I guess, the obvious money?
That's it. That's all it is. It's the money part of it. But I will say, we had a little housewarming party over the weekend, and
oh, you know what? I didn't get the mail, so the invite is probably somewhere in there. My bad. Go ahead.
It took a couple more hours to get there.
Yeah, I would have wanted to commute anyway. Thanks for asking, though.
Anyway, there was a family friend here.
Oh, okay. No Yanks allowed. Just a Polish gathering. Okay.
It was actually all Polish. So he's a Chelsea fan. Been a Chelsea fan for 20 plus years. And so naturally when he came over, he wanted to talk about the Club World Cup. I was like, no, that's not happening. I'm not paying attention to that shit. I don't want to hear about it. But he did say that it's nice for the teams that are competing with the payouts that they're getting, because I know I heard about it, but I didn't necessarily realize that with Chelsea advancing this past round, they got 15 million to get to the next round. That's half of what they paid for Liam Delap, right? So I think from that point of view, as a club participating in it, there is a big financial reward, especially for some of those smaller clubs, like not necessarily smaller as in stature, but smaller as in money, like your Brazilian clubs. It's not your Saudi clubs, obviously. Maybe your MLS clubs to a certain extent, and like the Australian club as well. Like there's those financial opportunities are very nice, and it does boost your team a little bit. But from a footballing aspect, it's just a waste. I feel like it just waters down the sport even more. I mean, we've already talked about how much overplaying is watering down a lot of competition, because it's so hard to watch these guys continue to play every week, month in and month out, not getting any breaks whatsoever. And I feel like we can see that on the pitch, because the quality is just getting worse, because they're just tired, man. And I also I've conditioned my family to know that June and July is family time, right? Like that's my brain switches off from football, because this is a little break. And unless it's
wait. So
unless it's the World Cup or the Euro. So there's only one year every other year where I'm fully switched off, which happens to be right now.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, look, normally you want to a little bit. By the way, I mean, I don't understand. I guess I should appreciate it, because that sounds like a backhanded compliment, doesn't it? Yeah, the content is great, but he's a yank kind of a thing. But look, I understand. I'm trying to think of what is the goal? I mean, FIFA can come out and say the goal is to make money, even though we know that that's what it is. I don't even know if this thing is making money, first of all. I don't know how much they sold the viewership rights for. Even if they did, I don't know, the next company that's bidding for the next tournament is going to be like, dude, nobody's watching this shit. So they might bid less or whatever. And I don't know if it's everybody in Brazil is probably watching. I can understand, you're watching one of those smaller clubs like in Australia or whatever, taking on the big boys and stuff like that. It's probably good TV for them, but it doesn't really promote the game, right? I mean, maybe somebody in the US might not be able to compare it to something else, because the quality of the Major League Soccer is probably similar, right? I mean, obviously there's Major League teams in there, but I mean, I just saw the highlights, for example, of the PSG Miami game, and it's it's almost feels pointless to even have those games. But overall, nobody's really seeing this and saying oh, I got to really start watching soccer, kind of a thing, if that was your goal by doing it over here and all that kind of stuff. So aside from money, I don't know if almost you're kind of reinforcing what Klopp and everybody else is saying by watering it down, and it's having a competition like that, where you could have just sent these 6 teams, 8 teams that are actually known and are good teams, and it would have been the same thing. You just gave these guys a vacation in America. That's about it.
And a lot of them, maybe not a lot of them, but there are a few that definitely are not enjoying their time in the States. I don't know if, I saw some guy go up to Luka Modric the other day and ask him, what has been his favorite thing about being in the States, and he just looks at the camera and nothing. He says, "You like Europe better?" And Luca's like, "Yeah, I do like Europe better." I mean, but he's used to that more, so I wouldn't be surprised at people saying that. But I don't know if they're really enjoying being in the States or having the vacation, unless they're maybe in New York or Miami or LA or wherever, where they can actually go out and try and enjoy it. Because I guess the nice thing from a player standpoint here in the States is if they do go out and visit the cities, a lot of people don't know who they are. And so they can actually feel like maybe a normal person for a moment, where they're not hounded by people 24/7. Because over in Europe, everyone knows their faces, right? I mean, it's a big difference for them. So I think if anything, that's the one thing for the players that's better. But there's nothing in it for us, and hopefully this also is a good sign to not get any games during the actual regular season to be played in the States. I know that it was teased last year, 2 years ago, having a game that would be overseas somewhere. And I'm just hoping that this is sort of the icing on the cake on that disastrous, stupid idea. Ooh, speaking of which, the PL, the interview shit as well. That's something, I don't know if you guys talked about that.
We talked a little bit about it Friday because, the conversation went all over the place. So on the way out, we chatted with Gally for like a few minutes on that. But that's, I mean, it's all revolves around money. I mean, Trevor says I will be hearing from Infantino. I will love to talk to Infantino and see if he's like, shit, this didn't work, or like it's not. Or I don't know if they feel like this is going to grow, like over time, this is going to be good. I feel like they have to change how they get players on there. I mean, the teams, I should say, like how they select the teams. I know you wanted to make it a world thing. I get that. But you have to bring the number of good teams has to be at least 60, 70%. Because it feels like there is no chance. I know the ball is round and anything can happen, blah, blah, blah. But, even in the World Cup, it feels like, especially with players, most of the players, even like regardless of what country they're playing for, right? The international players are playing in top leagues and stuff like that. So the gap is not huge between, I don't know, like an England or, I don't know, throw any team on there that normally you would consider an underdog, like Cameroon or something like that, right? So you watch that game and you feel like, yes, something can happen because they got quality players there. I mean, it's like, when Liverpool face, I don't know, an FA Cup, like a championship team, you're like, hey, obviously the squad is a lot better, but Plymouth, yeah. But like anything can happen. You see like good players on both sides and stuff like that in the World Cup, in the Euros. The gap is not that big. I don't think anybody watched that game against PSG playing like Inter Miami and said, you never know, man, it's soccer and stuff. No, it's not. Like it's like us or Kevin's kebab restaurants putting together a team over there and going out there. It's just not going to happen. That's why I understand the point of it, unless they do improve it. Hey, look, the troll of the morning is here. Where were you, man? Like we're almost at the end of the show over here. 23 is an odd number, literally. And but why is it 23? That's is that the head coach counting? Maybe 22 players and a head coach. Yanks, if you will. So I guess we're out. Because would you qualify obviously to play for the U.S. national team?
How? I wasn't born here.
Yeah, but you are a citizen, aren't you?
Aren't you?
No, not yet.
Oh, well, shit.
Lazy to do the homework and study history.
I've got to wear the red, white, and blue. Damn it! I was hoping it would just stop.
July.
I was hoping it would just stop at red and white. Now I got to throw in the blue, and I guess it's ironic, but here I am in a blue shirt. So there we go.
You never played for the Polish youth team, so you're more ignorant. The Mickey should like individual walkouts, unnecessary breaks, delayed starts needs to end. Doesn't seem. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't watched enough, like I say, to know all this stuff. I know I heard. I mean, the breaks. I'm assuming they're like water breaks or whatever. Because I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not playing in this shit. It's brutal out here. So I can see them doing that. I mean, artificial turf. I know somebody was mentioning it. I heard a player saying like they felt like their toes were burning. And I was like, they must have been playing. We were talking with Angel, and I'm like, I mean, they have World Cups in Mexico and stuff. You didn't hear toes burning there because we had like a couple of Mexico World Cups in the heat. But yeah, if you're playing on turf, dude, I cannot imagine how hot the ground would be. And the locations they're selecting, obviously nothing close to us, for example, to go and like watch. Do you think the next one will be better? Or how will it be better? Let me ask you that.
Maybe not being in the States, that would be one way to make it better, because then you could limit the amount of travel for majority of teams. But that's a very Eurocentric vision, I think, from my head too, because when you think about the travel for Brazilian teams would be pretty far. But yeah, I don't know. Location, I think, would be one. Two would be a different way of choosing the teams, and maybe not so random and for quite clearly publicity stunts. Like Inter Miami did nothing in the MLS to deserve to be part of the Club World Cup. And yet they were still able to participate because of Messi, because of Suarez, right? I mean, that's the whole reason. So having an understandable reason why these teams were selected. I know Chelsea was picked because they won a Champions League 4 years ago, but that's it. Like, what, you have the most successful club in England now that don't even get an invite. It just seems all sort of random, but I think it would be better by not having it. And that's where I'm going to be.
I know what Gennett is, man. I don't know. It didn't work over there. That translation didn't work. I don't know what that means, but good morning, sir. I agree to that. The location, you would think there'd be more fans. Because I know Sergio was mentioning it. I mean, I know like some of these countries might not want to come to the US right now, like visa and stuff like that. And I don't freaking blame them with all the shit we got going on there. But at least you would think you would have more fans because people would go to it as a casual fan of the sport, just to soak up the environment and stuff like that. I can see that. But until you really change that ratio, man, I mean, is anybody still going to watch two Brazilian teams play in Denmark? Well, I'm sure they're not going to have it in Denmark, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, in England, would two like people go to fill a stadium? They would go to watch, but would they fill a stadium?
Yeah, probably not. Unless you have the two Brazilian teams be able to get enough fans to fly from Brazil all the way to England or Denmark or wherever. And I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, it's different. In an actual World Cup, an international World Cup, that's an easy trip to make for a lot of people. But I just think it's another gimmick that is going to hopefully fade, and we won't have to worry about it.
World Cup is different. Yeah, I mean, I think World Cup, the fact that it's every 4 years, I mean, there's a huge thing to it. I think it will be, yes. I mean, and Bill says he's looking forward to it. I think that will be totally different. I agree to that. I think it will be a totally different environment in terms of fans. Hopefully the visa stuff and ICE and all that stuff will get sorted by then. Not that I have a lot of hope, but let's hope so people come in and like watch their teams and stuff like that and support their teams. Because that's, I mean, we were talking, if like even Turkey doesn't qualify, for example, I would go to a game and sit with like different fans, whether it's like Japan or something like that, just to be in the atmosphere, like, because it's like kind of the cool ordeal. It's every 4 years and stuff like that. So I can kind of like understand that. But I mean, like, yeah, I was saying, like, I mean, I saw a game where, I mean, it's looked ridiculous. And the fact that they're playing in these huge stadiums, I mean, you go to Fire games in the city where they don't even open the tops because they know if they did, it would look even more ridiculous. So it almost looks like it's a smaller stadium kind of, and even then they don't fill it. So like they're playing in these huge stadiums and it looks so freaking sad but I do agree that the World Cup would be totally different. No, I am not I don't get into Major League Soccer, man. I don't even know. I can't think of anybody that will come in, and I might go to a game and watch him, but I don't think it's going to be against against two is the question. Okay, I wanted to ask this, and I know we're at 15 minutes to go, and this conversation can go for hours and hours and hours, but I don't know if you saw it. Like, obviously the Ali documentary is out, like kind of being released an episode at a time. There was a clip that came out that shows, I think it's from episode 3, showing his goal and the story behind it and all that kind of stuff. Obviously his dad had passed away and stuff. Because I was thinking, I watched it and I was showing Angie and stuff like that. Over the last couple of decades, I'm sure, like, some of the old school guys can go even further back, maybe like Istanbul and stuff like that. But what would be, like, if you gave me a moment that you will not forget, even 70 years old, when you're a king then finally, but still have the butlers around, what would be like a game or a moment that you will remember from like this era, let's say, over the last few decades, because that is up there for me. And I don't know if it's the whole dad connection, and I think we share a similar thing with that, having lost our fathers. But I don't know, that moment always gets me, like that whole, like the whole 2-3 minutes, the celebrations afterwards, all the the emotions and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I that moment especially because I was working. I helped out. There was a friend that started a barbecue business, and I would help work there by taking orders and whatnot. And I just had it on my phone, just sitting there. And I remember just pacing around the counter when it got to that time, and I couldn't have the release that I wanted to there because I couldn't make it that obvious that I was watching. So it was very internalized. So that's I think that's going to be a very easy one to remember because of where I was and how easy it is to remember that. But for me, it has to be Istanbul in 2005, only because that was probably the clearest memory that I had with my dad watching a
Okay.
game and watching, a Polish goalkeeper in Jerzy Dudek
Oh, I didn't think of that connection. Okay.
making the final save. And then my dad passed away a couple years after that. So for me, it's hard to have that top because it was just the moment as a fan. I remember my sister coming home. She said she could hear us from like down the street yelling and going crazy. So that has to be there. And then the other one, I think maybe the Barcelona game, only because I had I had just bought my first home, and I was kind of by myself there and watching it and just taking it all in emotionally. So yeah, I think I have to go with Istanbul in '05. And as much as I would love to say something more recent, there's plenty that will be there, I think. But when I think emotionally, sentimentally, yeah, it's got to be the '05 final.
You know what the odd thing is? I didn't even get to watch that live.
No.
Because some of us had to work. We don't have we don't have all our cancels. Some of us weren't in the workforce at the time, and because of the hours, and that's why like probably over the last, I mean, since I left, I mean, I still work, but I work from home now. Since I left Menards over the last decade, like I have not missed a game unless something odd has happened. I'm on the road or something like that, but I have not missed any game like midweek, end of the week, at night, in the morning, whatever. But yeah, so I never got to see that live. I remember I was actually, I remember just being sick as hell that day because checking on the phone kind of a deal. Because this is, yeah, like I'm Menards, probably like working in Chicago at the time. But yeah, not getting to what, who was at the game? My freaking brother, who's a United fan. And he was actually the one that, like I remember him telling me that, as a, he's a United fan, probably was enjoying the Liverpool misery at the time, but he was in awe of how the fans were just singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" at halftime and stuff like that. Just knowing most other fans would probably be like, "Well, this sucks. We came all the way to Istanbul to get our butt kicked," kind of a deal and stuff like that. But I don't know, like that. The thing that's odd. I mean, I have some moments where I probably neighbors might think at least that I over celebrated. Like the Divock goal, for example, in the Champions League, the second
Mm.
one. Obviously the Barcelona one, but the Barcelona one, I was always still worried because if they scored, it wasn't like the alley game. And I remember I was like by myself in the house because usually they abandon me and go and leave me with the TV because God knows what's gonna happen. It's just me and the dogs. But I it wasn't even like I didn't even like celebrate as much. It was just like what the hell just happened kind of a thing. And I remember they came home like in the post match or something like that, and I was like, yeah, they scored in the last minute. I was like, Ali scored. They were like, what? Like, because it just made no sense. But every time I watch that, I don't know, that has to be, I know, like somebody said, the Barcelona game. I mean, would it be the corner taken quickly? Would it be the end of it? Because I do remember the end of the game very vividly and probably watched the highlights to that thing like 100 times by now. So but there's like in terms of like a single moments in that game, like would you throw that in the top moments, like the corner taking quickly? Because that was another one when it happens. There was a little bit of a what the hell just happened? Like, it wasn't even like a screamer or something like that, you know?
And so annoyingly, that specific goal, when the ball went out, I turned around to go let my dog outside because I was like, all right, there's a little break here. Right? She wanted to go outside, and I was like, all right, there's this little moment here because I lived in a townhouse where I had to put her on a leash. So I couldn't just open the door and let her run out. I had to actually go out and clip her in. And then I clip her in and I look back at the TV and everyone's celebrating. I was like, what the fuck just actually happened? And so I didn't get that moment with that goal, but I can easily, like you're saying, vividly remember Milner shielding the ball in the corner and then
Yeah.
Genie dropping to his knees like 15 yards away from that. That's the moment that is embedded in my head from the Barca game. Not necessarily any goal specifically, but Milner shielding the ball and Genie dropping to his knees, and that's the moment. Like if I think of a moment of that game, it's that particular time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, dude, that's so funny you say that. I remember that, Ginny, and then Hendo just totally passed out in the corner over there, just like laying down, just like freaking exhausted kind of a thing. Yeah, I mean, we barely remember who took the corner, but but it was one of those, like, when it went in, it was like, what the hell just happened? But how many times have we seen that, right? Like, somebody puts the ball down, passes it, it's a 1v1 and it gets called out. So you're like, oh, this is gonna get called out. It was like, wait, what's going on? They're still celebrating. So that was more of a shock than a celebration as well. But I feel that Ali moment for me too. I mean, it was one of those that still one of my favorites post match like interviews, when they talk to him and stuff like that. But I think more than like the goal, like the celebrations, like even in the documentary, like Ali says, he's never seen Mo hasn't celebrated one of his own goals like that, leave alone his goal and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, afterwards, like all the players like in tears for him. I know. I thought that's like one of those moments that was like 5-10 minutes is like, holy cow. And like I say, it kind of goes back to, like I say, us with, having lost our dads. There's like a connection to it there where you can kind of feel the emotion and understand and stuff like that. Jimbo says he turned the TV off after the third goal. And that was another thing I think somebody mentioned in the comments. He wasn't just like coming back from 3-0. It was come back from 3-0 against that AC Milan team, which was ridiculous. Like, when you look at the lineups now, whenever you see the highlights, you're like, you had no business. It was like this tournament. It was FIFA Club World Cup, the Brazilian team taking on PSG or something like that. I mean, in terms of squad quality, I mean, there's some really, I don't know, like legendary players and stuff like that there. But still, when you look at quality, man, it's like some like all-time players are on that AC Milan team. It's just like ridiculous. That can't have gone good for you. Oh man. Um. Really. It's the next week. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. I can only imagine because that was like that's such a. I, that was the thing though. Like, I feel like there are certain games. While I'm as nervous and pessimistic as I am, like until it's like final or at the very end. That's why like that Divock goal, the second goal, like when I feel like it's freaking done, like that whole coming out kind of a thing. That goal, for example, I celebrated. I remember like I remember like watching it on the laptop on this desk over here because I had watched the entire Champions League on the laptop. So I didn't even go downstairs to watch the big TV. And you guys are welcome for that because that laptop won us the trophy. It's
Because
not
that was shortly after that free kick that they had that Ali saved that could have tied it up 1-1. Like it was quite close. And yeah, so that's right on the money. You didn't have that full release until you felt that it was all good and done. And even then there was a moment where like he didn't look offside at all. But I was waiting. I was like, he's definitely offside, isn't he? Even though I knew he wasn't, part of my head was like, he's definitely offside, right? He's definitely offside.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, that was odd because when I watched that, I figured like I would bounce it off of the audience and stuff too. I mean, um, yeah, I mean, he was that goal by itself, that fourth goal is just mind-boggling. And can you imagine being on the other side of that? And regardless of how good that Barcelona team was and how many like ridiculous legendary players they had, would you ever forgive your team for falling asleep like that in that moment?
Oh man, that's tough because you could also argue that they could have done something a little bit more offensively. Like, right, if you have one goal that game, then it's over as well, right? I mean, I guess you could always flip it back that way. But 4 goals is a lot to give up, and in the manner that they were given up, like the first one, just kind of a few defensive errors, falling asleep off the rebound. Second goal was a bad turnover, right? And then a little bit of a deflection across. Third goal was just lazy defending, right? And then fourth goal was falling asleep. So it's not like there were 4 world.
Do you look at that as a fan? Like do you as a fan when you watch it, you get mad at that moment, don't you? You don't like when that happens. If I'm a Barcelona fan, then I'm like, God damn it, the 13th minute, you're like, what are we doing? What I would do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think over the years, like, every once in a while, the YouTube algorithm will throw in the live game reactions of some YouTube channels of watching that game, especially Barcelona fans. And you could just see it's so nice to see every once in a while just how angry they just slowly started to get. It's just fantastic.
Unpopular opinion, but I'm not a big Suarez fan. I mean, loved like some of the goals he scored and what he did for Liverpool and stuff like that. But as a dude, like, not a huge fan of him. I know it's not a popular opinion amongst like Liverpool fans, but like some of the stuff he's done and stuff like that, just not my cup of tea. So yeah, seeing his misery. Obviously, Coutinho was there, so that on top of it was another one. I do not. I do rate. We were talking about earlier in the show, Ozan. I mean, yeah, I do rate Nioni, and I do hope he will be. I don't know. Like, that's a good question, though. Do you think he gets a loan? I know we talked about it earlier in the show, but you think a loan is a good move for a kid like that instead of just keep trotting him out against the U21s, like send him to the championship where it's freaking physical?
Are you talking for Nalo or Nioni?
Nioni. Now, I don't have a lot of hope you can send them where you want, but I hope I'm wrong. I just don't. I just have a lot of hope from what I've seen from the kid.
You know where you can't send them? To the defensive line. Okay. Sorry. So I think a loan would help Nioni. I think something like we saw Morton do, where we kind of go to the EFL, go to the championship for a year in a very physical league. Because I think if you could argue that the championship in some ways is more physical than the Premier League because of the schedule and how many you have to play 8 more games, right? Or 6 more games, sorry. And it just becomes a more physically taxing thing throughout the year. So I think that's it could be a good indicator of his physical strength and how well he can play at that level. So I think it would help because I think currently with where our midfield is at, it's going to be very difficult to find minutes for him unless it's some sort of cup rotation where that would be understandable. But then do you hang on to Nioni for possibly 3 games in the whole season where he could get maybe 30, 40 games elsewhere and actually be able to develop something? Because where it stands, and I know that some people have been complaining about, well, then why do we sign Wirtz, when we have 3 good midfielders, 4 good midfielders, whatever. You're allowed to have many midfielders. You look at a team like Real Madrid who have 6, maybe 7 very good, potentially start week in, week out kind of midfielders. It's okay to have the depth there. The bad part of the depth is that when you have a guy like Nioni, he's not going to crack that depth unless there are some serious injuries that happen or we are really, really deep into different competitions and really want to rotate.
And at that point, I feel like it's not fair on the kids to put him in a situation where he's playing because like everybody else is injured, kind of a thing. So like when we tried out these teams, for example, against like Plymouth and stuff like that, where it's all like makeshifts, I feel like when we throw the youth, I don't consider that, not for like even like Elliot. I know he's young and stuff like that, but he has experience. Not for Chiesa and stuff. Those guys are fine, but I think putting the kids in that situation where it's already going to be disconnected and stuff, I think it's unfair to the kids to evaluate them off of that. Don't think the powers that be are evaluating them from that game because they know the situation. But I do think the fans do. Like, they look at that, like, you didn't do anything in that game. Well, I mean, like, everything was all over the place. So kind of like unfair to expect the kid to do better. But I do think, especially if you're not going to trust him, to give him regular minutes, and you know right now if you're going to trust him or not this season, to give him regular minutes, and you can always call him back if there's something like in January. You can call him back, and you do need him, and you feel like, hey man, he can give us quality minutes. I do agree. I would rather send him on loan and to the championship, especially because I don't think he would crack into like a Premier League starting 11 at the moment, unless it's like one of the new boys that came up or something like that. But yeah, send him down there, get him like used to a more physical brand of soccer, and get him ready for the Premier League, because I do think he has like a really high ceiling. So yeah, by the way, both Mo and Bobby were out that Barcelona game as well. What a game, man. It's hard, but we have to do like a long segment about the top moments over like the 2000s so far, or the 90s or something like that, because God knows if there's no transfer news, we're gonna run out of stuff to talk about anyway. So we might like do stuff like that and get everybody's take on that, because obviously there's a lot of like takes on this Barcelona game over here.
We'll just actually just do another food menu for you guys, because a lot of these people, they weren't here for Pull Turk.
They were not here for Paul Turk. Yes, I don't think any of the live audience right now was around when we were opening the Polish Turkish combo. Would that be Polish fusion or Polish Turkish fusion? And your menu, yes, we had a full blown menu. Even the drink specials, you had made drinks, which I thought the drinks were better than the menu personally. But still, there were like some good drinks on that. Yes, we should bring Paul Turk back. Yeah, I mean, dude, I would be crying too. Let's be honest. And honestly, I would want my players crying in the locker room after that, especially that fourth goal, man. I mean, you're a professional for that thing to happen. I remember Mourinho talking about it, like, if it happened to a U12 team, you would think it's early in the morning, these kids are not awake yet and stuff like that. So it happened at that level in the semis. It's sausages and kebabs. No, see, that's too basic, Tony. That's too basic.
It was much more elevated. Much more elevated.
Leave it to Mateusz to make it like a true. And we had the Dingus FC going too. Yeah, we got to bring all those old things. Mm-hmm. This was when nothing was happening last summer, I think. So we were we were really scrambling for content. We were throwing that out. But hey, by the way, before we head out, I don't want to remind everybody, in case you guys were not on Friday morning, and we'll probably talk about it again tonight too, but the dates for this year's now second annual 24-hour podathon is set. First of all, it's going to be 9th to the 10th of August. So we're going to start around noon on the 9th and end around noon the next day. It might be 1 o'clock. Really depends on the Charity Shield game and the kickoff, because basically it's going to be similar to last year where we do the live watch along. Then we'll bring all the contributors on with our projections for the next, like our forecast for the next season, and kind of like wrap it up, hopefully be able to wrap it up. But what's unique this year is we're going to be in location at Carriers. So we are going to be doing it live. They've been awesome enough to host us over there, so we will be there live at the bar, and they're gonna lock us in, and we're gonna be there 24 hours straight. Myself, Bickler, and Galley, 24 hours nonstop. So we are looking for sponsors for those hours. There will be obviously a GoFundMe like last year. There'll be a silent auction again last year. But first business is getting the hours sponsored. So we are looking for personal sponsors, like supporter clubs, businesses, you name it. So if you're interested, do send us an email. Their email addresses are on YouTube, actually. Do send us an email so we can send you some details. But it's not a lot, but it goes a long way. So yeah, just give us a shot over there. Sponsor one of the hours. I think we do have 7 hours within the first 3-4 days over here of announcing it's already sponsored. But you know what that means? Easy math. There's still 17 to go. So we do need more sponsors, and we're hoping, like, if we get a lot of personals, we'll have some co-sponsors for certain hours as well. So do connect us with that. Mateusz will be on, right, like many others, to keep us awake. Hopefully it will be interesting at the pub.
I will not be taking a road trip to South Carolina this time. and basically screwing all those plans. So I'll be wherever you need me. I won't be in New York, but I'll be here.
That's right, because part of the plans was to do an hour or something like that of a live FIFA action, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Last one.
Yeah.
And yes, you did screw that up. That's right. Thanks for reminding all of us over here. But yes, Matush will be on as many of the other contributors. So it should be a fun time. Last year we ended up collecting $5,000. So the goal is to beat the hell out of that this year. But I'll be back tonight with the gang. We'll probably not talk about the menu, but we'll find some stuff to talk about. Maybe there'll be some like stuff happening during the day. We'll get their take on some of the other stuff as well. You got plans for today? Day off. It's hot as hell, but supposed to be the coolest day.
The coolest day of the last week, which means it's only 89 degrees instead of 94. Today is my first actual day off in probably over a month because the basketball coaching is done for the summer. So yeah, I am just going to actually literally do nothing today. Both my wife and I, because of the housewarming party, we had to get the house ready in less than a month with everything. And now that we're done with that, we're doing nothing today.
Sounds like a plan. Pretty much what we did this weekend. It was like a glorious weekend in that sense. Didn't do anything. Couldn't get anything accomplished, but still, it was like a nice weekend in that sense. So yeah, enjoy the day off. Some of us have to work because we're not princes and don't have generational wealth. Thanks for all those joining us today. Give us a like, thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please do. And most importantly, we rely on you guys in the audience over here to spread the word. So grab somebody by the ear, drag their butt over here so they can be tortured as well. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you guys tonight. Take care.